I'm just absolutely flabbergasted that this monstrosity exists. This book is complete trash. It is awful. This book is trash. This book is utter trash. It is awful. It shouldn't exist. Utter trash. It shouldn't exist. It is awful. Utter trash. Flabbergasted that this monstrosity exists. On the face of it, this book is something to really celebrate the joy of taking photographs of birds. Lots of beautiful images of birds in the wild. One of the goals for any photographer is to see their work published in a book. It's something that makes you feel really good. It's something that makes you feel like your career has reached a certain stage. None of the photographers in this book even have their name published anywhere inside it. What's this book for? Why does this book exist? And why aren't the photographers credited? What is happening here? A photograph should have a reason to exist. It shouldn't exist for the sake of a photograph. There should be a reason you want to share that image. There should be something behind it, some intent. And that's what makes the images in a book really valuable, the intent of the photographer. And that's why who took the photo really matters. Today I'm going to be talking about this glossy, shiny book and why it makes me really, really sad for the future of publishing. A very nice friend wanted to say thank you to me for helping him out with something, and he was kind enough to go shopping for a gift. And this is what he picked out. It's a book full of photographs of birds. It is all about the photographs. There's not a lot of text in it. There's a very short foreword, and everything is just birds on the inside. As I went through the book, there was something I just couldn't quite put my finger on initially. What was it about these pages that just didn't quite seem right? There are sections that just have all of these black backgrounds, like it's, a portrait of a bird. And then some of the backgrounds look kind of weird, like as in that wasn't shot on a black background, but someone's gone in and etched all of that out. And that seemed kind of weird. This book has some of my favourite birds ever. It's got things like the hoopoe, it's got the wall creeper, it's got some common birds in there like swans and some eagles and things like that. And we've got some cranes there, some cranes en masse. It's got lots of beautiful birds. Birds are great subjects, and I love a bit of bird photography myself, and lots of the birds in here I have even photographed myself. I love the white-breasted wood swallows, by the way. They're beautiful birds, great subjects to shoot. I've seen them up on the Murray River quite a lot. I'm going through this book, and some of these photos have been etched out like this, and I'm thinking, something's not right with this book. What is it? And as I look through, and I realise none of the photos have the photographer credited. That was my first clue that something wasn't quite right here. And I went to the back and I tried to find some credits for it, and it's got an index of the common names and which pages you might find them, and that's it. That's the sum total of the technical information that we have in here. There's a very short foreword. The foreword is just basically those 2 pages. And I'm like, what's going on here? Why does this book exist? There's no sections. It's not done by continent. It's not done by a passerine versus finches versus parrots. There's no organisational structure. You have lots and lots of different birds from different parts of the world. You go from Africa to Eurasia to South Africa to South America to the North Atlantic Ocean, back to Asia again. Now we're in Central America. Maybe we'll pop across to Australia soon, who knows? Siberia, here we go. Africa, oceans worldwide, a storm petrel. What's this book for? Why does this book exist? And why aren't the photographers credited? What is happening here? There is one page at the back with some of the publisher's information, the usual stuff as in published by Reed, New Holland Publishers in Sydney, the ISBN printed in China, everything is these days. And there's no credit for the photographers. There's no author credited as well. There's a publisher and project editor, Simon Papps, and he's the guy who's credited with the foreword as well. And it's that, and yeah. This book is trash. This book is designed to be pretty and glossy and simply occupy a shelf for a couple of months and then be thrown away. This is a disposable book. It does nothing to actually help an appreciation for birds. It is just a bunch of pretty pictures. There's no actual information about the birds. In the foreword, he finishes with a little bit of a flourish about how, you know, we need to learn more about birds and help their conservation and that sort of stuff. But he's not doing any of that himself. He is not giving information. He's not telling you anything about the story of their habitat. And if you want to save birds, you've got to save habitat. If you want to save migratory species, you need lots of different kinds of habitat in various different places in the world. None of that. There is no conversation about birds in this book of birds. It is a monstrosity. It is a waste of paper. It is literally hastening the death of more birds. It is destroying habitat, chopping down trees to make this book. It is awful. It shouldn't exist. And this is a terrible thing for publishing. It is vacuous, it is hollow, it is empty. There is nothing here. It's not even landfill. It's just gonna rot somewhere in garbage. That's all this book will ever do. And this makes me mad because there are beautiful books out there. There are beautiful books on birds that have meaning and have a purpose. Yeshidori in Bhutan put this book together. He spent years putting it together. The fact that he made that effort, he did all that work to capture these moments is what makes it special. It's what makes these images important. He has some genuine information about the habitat, where they are, a little bit about their life cycle, some information, something that you can glean other than just the photo. The photo is there to bring you into their lives, not just to sell a book. This book exists because he loves the birds. Yeah. It's hard to express the difference between seeing some of these beautiful pictures of birds in Bhutan, hard-crafted pictures, hard-earned pictures by Yeshi, how he has captured some really beautiful species and that we are getting a glimpse into a habitat. We are getting a glimpse into where in Bhutan these come from, why this particular region of Bhutan is different to another, and hence why the birds are different. This is a beautiful book. Such a common bird like this, the blue whistling thrush. You see them all over Bhutan, you see them over the Himalayas, all over Nepal, and yet it's a beautiful subject. It's something that's worth going out and shooting and understanding that these birds need habitat. And where is that habitat and that connection to the habitat that is so important when we're talking about birds. It really is. I too have my own book on birds. This was a companion book that I put together just for people who, when they came to the exhibition, they could also go home with a book that has a blue whistling thrush in it as well. They are beautiful, beautiful birds. Common they may be, but they're still beautiful. And this book exists because of the experiences that I had. This book doesn't exist because I need to make an extra $10,000 for my publisher this month. This book exists because of the beautiful moments. Like we woke up one morning and everything was iced over when we were in Pobjika, and the hoopoe were out there on the icy terrain trying to find something to eat. These hoopoe are just such beautiful, beautiful birds. The birds in the Himalayas are just absolutely gorgeous. They are really, really something. And there's no need to etch here. Why would I etch out the habitat? The point of the photo is the habitat. That's why we're here. Where the birds live is so important for a book. So I'm just absolutely flabbergasted that this monstrosity exists, that money and effort and resources and carbon has gone into this. What's it for? What is the point of making a book like this? The whole point of being a photographer is to share and to give your version of the world, to let others see something that they might not have seen. None of the photographers got a credit. Not one of the photographers got a credit. And that is just... I spent 10 years on this book. It's all about photography. It's about my experiences. It's about how I relate to photography. It's all the things I learned over those 10 years. That's why it exists. There's a reason this book exists. This book did not sell thousands of copies. It is not one of the best-selling books in the world, but to me, it is very important. It is part of my journey. It's 10 years of my life are in these pages. The reason this book exists is because when I ran workshops and tours, people would ask me questions. Every now and then I'd have a decent answer. And when I did, I would write down that answer and I would save it. And that went into the book. These are all the ideas and the moments that really mattered across a 10-year span. Some of these ideas were when I had written an article for a magazine. Sometimes they were ideas that only existed during the workshop, because not everything turns up in a magazine. And sometimes they were just personal journeys. Sometimes they were something that I learned without the tours and without the clients and just when I was doing my own thing. But it exists because I had a journey and it is an expression of that journey. And I think that's really important. I think a book should have a reason to exist and a photograph should have a reason to exist. It shouldn't exist for the sake of a photograph. There should be a reason you want to share that image. There should be something behind it, some intent. And that's what makes the images in a book really valuable, the intent of the photographer. And that's why who took the photo really matters. Who took the photo is absolutely central to the book and enjoying it. I would love to know what's going on inside a publishing company, that they decided that instead of producing something of substance and meaning, something that pushes forward habitat conservation or species conservation, or the conversation about conservation and habitat and species, and instead they just decided to create a shiny, glossy book where everything is etched out of the habitat. Because I think that's a beautiful summary for where we're at. Climate change, habitat protection. In Australia, we're really struggling. We have a left-wing government at the moment, but you'd never know it. They're doing so little to actually protect the habitat. Most governments are doing so little to protect the habitat. And these are choices. These are choices. And this book was a choice. And that's what makes me really sad. Makes me really, really sad. So, what to say about that? This book is possibly one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my career. If you have a lovely, lovely book that you particularly treasure, whether it's about birds, whether it's about photography, or both or neither, I would love you to share what that book is. Put a little bit of a positive note to this particular video today. I'd love to know about the books that you felt have really made a difference for you and where you're going with your journey, whether that's about photography, whether that's about your life in general. If there's a book that has made a difference to you, please drop that in the comments. I'd love to know more. And thank you very much for your time. Lots of beautiful images of birds in the wild. And you would think that would be something to celebrate. You would think that would make this kind of a special book. And you'd be wrong. This book is not what it seems. This book is possibly one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my career. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted that this monstrosity exists. This book is complete trash. It is awful. This book is trash. This book is utter trash. It is awful. It shouldn't exist. Utter trash. It shouldn't exist. It is awful. Utter trash. Flabbergasted that this monstrosity exists.